It's going to be x equals negative 28 and y equals negative 51. What is negative parentheses x plus y plus x minus y equal to?
Yeah, I can take that one. So really this question is just evaluation. We got some variables, but it's not solving like Becca just went through with the algebra tiles. This, you should look at this and automatically think that this right here, negative x plus y plus x minus y, is not an equation. And the reason it's not is because it doesn't have it's not set equal to anything. So this is an expression that we can evaluate. So literally all we're doing here is we're saying, we have these relationships where we say x is negative 28 and y is negative 51. So anytime you see this, you should be thinking, I can substitute or I can interchange them however I want to. I can put negative 28 in everywhere there's an x. If they were flipped, I could put an x wherever there's negative 28. These are kind of stating they have the exact same value. X and negative 28 are the same. So what I do is I literally just go through here and I say, okay, I got an x here, I got an x here, and I'm just plugging numbers in. One thing that may throw you off is that we got some negatives, so we got negative and then in parentheses x plus y. We'll get to that in the, well, when we get to it. But we're going to see PEMDAS, which we've seen quite a bit of. So literally all I'm doing is I'm just going to leave some space here, and I'm just plugging some numbers in. So there's an x here. X is negative 28. So instead of x, I'm going to put negative 28. And there's an x here, right? It's got the same value, so I'm going to plug in a negative 28 here as well. And you want to be really careful with your signs here. I have a plus, so that's not changing. And I have a minus. But we're literally just, again, plugging stuff in. So y is negative 51, so I can plug in a negative 51. And then over here, it's negative 51 as well. Okay, so now we've substituted in our expression. We're just going to kind of walk through and use PEMDAS. But before I actually do that, I want to kind of clean these up right here. Right? I don't want to have two operations right next to each other. So I'm going to walk through and clean it up so I don't make any mistakes. The negative 28 is fine. If you remember, a positive and a negative right here is going to be a negative. So minus 51. This plus is staying the same. And then I get negative 28. And you get a negative and a negative makes up positive 51. And now we can just use PEMDAS. So kind of walking through this. I don't remember, we say this every time, but what was the funnier version? Like pink
purple elephants may
must
dance and sing.
Yeah. I think must is better.
Must dance and sing.
Must do it. All right.
Not an option.
It's not an option.
Mandatory dancing.
Yeah.
Mandatory dancing.
So under here we have the P for PEMDAS, so we have parentheses. I'm just going to abbreviate this. I'll put an H so it doesn't look like parent.
Parent.
So all we're going to do is everything inside the parentheses. So we're just simplifying in here and then in here. So when I say that we're simplifying in the parentheses, I think, and I don't know if you have this kind of struggle too, a lot of students try to do too much at one time. And the amount of time you typically save, those like 5 times that you get through it without making a mistake, is often more than made up for that one time that you have to do everything all over again and you didn't kind of walk through your steps, so you don't really know where your mistake was. You might as well just start from scratch. So you'll kind of see the way that Becca and I model it. We probably do more than most kind of math students do, but it's because, one, I think it's good to see walking through all the steps, but also you're a lot less likely to make a mistake if you do it this way.
That is the truth.
Yeah. So I do this all the time, and Becca too, and I still kind of show most of
Yeah.
my work to make sure.
Yeah, it's not that we can't do this stuff in our heads.
Right.
It's just we know that if you show step by step by step, you're way less likely to make mistakes.
Right.
So
Yeah, all I'm doing is simplifying in here. I've got a negative and a negative, so my difference will be negative. So negative 28 minus 51 is going to end up being negative 79. And then plus negative 28 plus 51 is going to be positive 23. And we just continue, so I've done the parentheses part. So I'll cross that off. There are no exponents, so I'm going to cross that off. There is technically a multiplication here. So we're going to look at this. It doesn't look like it maybe, but part of what we're doing here is multiplying. So when I say that, we're kind of thinking about right here. This is multiplication. And what we have is a negative times a negative. You can always think of this as like negative 1. Think of that as being there, but negative times a negative is going to be a positive. So we have positive 79 plus 23. And then we have no addition, no division, and we finally, our last step is just going to be to add these together, and we get 102. That's pretty
you
much
can
it.
also think of that negative there with that 79. Think of a negative sign as meaning the opposite of. So the opposite of negative 79,
Right.
positive 79.
Yeah, that's a good way
Another
to
way
think about it
to
too.
think about it. But latch onto whatever makes sense to you. Some of my students, that negative 1 times makes sense. Some of my students, just the opposite. It makes sense. Just
Yeah.
whatever makes sense.